we are back and crazy weekend. For anybody who's a fight fan or anyone that doesn't live under a rock, we saw some crazy things happen over the weekend. Shorty, did you see some of these things happen?
Technically, no. I was busy the entire day. All those crazy things happened. But obviously saw the highlights or what I could at least. And it is a crazy thing to see Ilya Temporia knock out Max Holloway. I think that's the
Yeah,
craziest highlight from the weekend. I know I did get to see the double back fist live, which was awesome.
that was
Um,
pretty cool. Yeah.
but in general, man, it was overall a pretty good event from what I was able to see and definitely hear about. But Ilya Tapora and Alex Piera are dude, they're superstars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, it's crazy. And you know what though? I didn't get a chance to watch it either. I just happened to be I was at work all day and technically I shouldn't be watching fights at work, but I mean, I was really busy so I wouldn't have had a chance to even if I was allowed to and sanctioned the whole thing. Um all I got to see, I wanted to at least try to like put it on my phone and just put it in a corner while I was like working or doing some paperwork, acting like I was busy. And so I pull up my phone thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna catch the last fight," and next thing, all I see is my like all everything on my phone is just about Ilya Taporia knocking him out. I'm like, "What?" And I look and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I mean, and you know what though? And I was thinking a lot about it before we did this episode. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about in terms of the fight, and a lot of people are talking about how I think a lot of people were disappointed that Max Holloway lost, and that's fair. He was the king of the jungle there for so long. And Ilya Taporia, of course, he beat Alexander Volkanovski and knocked him out, and he's one of the greats there in the featherweight as well. But I just don't think a lot of people kind of saw it happening. A lot of people kind of expected the Max Holloway who showed up. I mean, arguably he shows up in every fight, but showed up on that BMF fight and it just wasn't the case. And just I think Ilya Taporia, he like I think when not just beat, but when you knock out two like legit like legends of the featherweight division, you can't deny him now. You can't deny what he's got going on there.
I mean, he's young. He has nothing but time to grow.
Yeah,
And he's a small featherweight too, which is saying a lot. Like
which
he's
is
nowhere
wild.
near he's not like Alex Piero where it's like, oh, this guy's gigantic. He can do a three-weight
Yeah,
class champion. Like Taporia, I mean, sure, he might be able to win the lightweight belt, but what he's doing at featherweight, honestly, I think he can go down to bantamweight because of how small he is compared to the rest of the featherweights. But the big difference between Justin Gaethje and Temporia is Justin Gaethje's and again, I love him to death, but he's a sloppy fighter. He's a grinder. He likes
mhm,
to put in the work. And when you fight Justin Gaethje, you're not going to get a very clean fight. It's not going to be all right, cool, tit for tat, or the technical punches are coming. He's a sloppy fighter, but his style, his technique works to his advantage, and obviously it's won him so many fights. And a lot of people have to really adapt to that fighting style because when you fight Justin Gaethje, it is a fight. You don't know what's coming at you, calf
yeah,
kicks, all these different hooks, whatever the case may be. How was it, Rolling Thunder, whatever. But when you fight Ilya Taporia, dude, he's a very, very, very technical striker. And again, I didn't get to watch the fight, so I can't say. But my coach, Miguel Gonzalez here, was telling me that he thought Max was winning the entire fight. That he was technically outstriking Ilya Temporia. Given again, I didn't get to watch it, so I can't say for sure. But Ilya is a person, especially when you watch the Volkanovski fight, he waits. He doesn't mind taking a shot or two, but he's when he takes them, he's like rolling with them. It's either sliding off of him or he's going with the punch.
yeah.
He's not taking the full clean hit. I think he's only taking one cool, clean shot, and that was a head kick from that he had earlier in his UFC career. But in general, like Ilias, he barely gets hit, and when he does, he's rolling with it. And when he strikes back, it's so technical that if you're not ready for it, dude, it is a very, very clean shot. Again, with the hooks, especially with his hooks, his overhand rights, like you see him level changing, you see him doing all these different things, and it's mainly primarily with his boxing. So that's the hardest thing is you want to compare the two fighters, but one size difference. Ilya is definitely a little bit shorter, but then two, it's just the technical striking of the 2 is very, very different, and Ilya, I
Mhm.
think, is just one of the most superior, cleanest boxers in MMA, and you see how hard he hits, not just because of his natural power, which for sure that's part of it, how clean his technique is adds to his power, and I think that's what makes things so much more dangerous.
Yeah, and another thing I was thinking about was they talked about how well Max Holloway takes shots and how good of a chin he has because he never really been knocked out. And he's had fights where he's taken a really bad beating. Um, and you look at and I thought about it because I had different comments and people talking about different things. And a lot of people were talking about, well, is it really Taporia just has really good power, or just did the time just kind of add up for Max Holloway? And finally, that was just the shot that cracked the jaw. And I thought about it, and I kind of like a little bit of both because you can't deny Toporia's power. He's got insanely great boxing, and you basically kind of covered a lot of that. But also, yeah, you look at Max Holloway's career. He's had his way with a lot of fights. I mean, you look at the Kelvin Cater fight. He put on a freaking clinic. But you look at a fight like he fought Volkanovski 3 times, and mind you, and especially in that third fight, he really he ate a lot of bad shots. And I mean, that was probably the worst that we probably seen him all cut up like that. And that was probably worst, um, not worst performance, but just that's the worst I've ever seen someone dominate him like that. So, I think over time, like he's 32 years old, he's had so many fights. Eventually you're someone whether unless you're lucky, you're eventually someone's gonna find your chin, and unfortunately, you only can take 8 so many shots, and eventually, your chin will deteriorate, and I think that it was just one of those fights, and sometimes you just have a matchup that just you don't match up well, and that's just what happens.
I mean, you look at some of the greats that have fallen. Chuck Liddell is probably one of the biggest,
Yeah,
idols of knocking everyone out, taking some really good shots too, making it a firefight, kind of the original Justin Gaethje, if you want to say, and then starts to get cracked, and then cracked, and then cracked, and then he can't take a
yeah.
shot. Same to Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes. Maybe it was just the weight cuts. Maybe it was all the different wars he's had, but then eventually he can't take a shot either. You look at some of the heavyweights, Bigfoot Silva literally got knocked out in like 12 straight fights or something like that. So inevitably time catches up to all of us, but
Mhm.
it's also then something that you don't want to put down Ilya Temporia when it comes to, like you said, it's the happy medium. Like I believe he is technically better with the hands and maybe just in general on the feet than the Max Holloway, but he cracked him, and maybe Max just can't take the damages that he used to take back in the day because maybe it's added up, like you said, but. In general, it could automatically be a mixture of both because no matter what, time catches up to all of us. And even for me personally, as much as I'd like to take my shot, sometimes I'm like, dude, my head hurts. Like, or man, I got a headache now for whatever the case may be. Also, want to give a huge shout out to Dominic Cruz because I've been training with him here at the UFCPI in Mexico City. And why is he here? No fucking clue. But he just wants to train and have some fun. And we literally asked him, like, hey, so when are you going back to the States? He goes, oh, I like it here. We're like, ah, good for you. All right. But I asked him because one thing I said to him is, man, I really like your commentary, not just because you speak very well, but because you break down the fighters just so intelligently. Like that's something
Yeah,
he gets at with Bisbing and Cormier, where like they don't study fights; they're just good at making it up on the spot, seeing what they see. But he wants to study these fighters and really
yeah.
pick and point. I go, hey man, who do you think's gonna win, Max or Ilya? He goes, I say Ilya, and he's gonna get it done in the third. I say knockout latest in the third round. And dude, I saw him on Monday. I go, you motherfucker, you called a knockout in the third round. He goes, I know my fights. He goes, I just know stylistically Max was eventually gonna get into that firefight. He was gonna take a good shot inevitably, and I just don't think he can withstand a young, hungry bull like Ilya Tamborya.
Yeah, and you know what the thing also I like about or excuse me, Dominic Cruz is
Dominic
that
Cruz.
yeah, like the way he carries himself, he talks very intelligent. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like the when he carries himself, and I know like he when you have to commentate, you got to be professional, and I understand that. But like the way he just carries himself in just general, like he's a very very when he talks, it's very very thought through, very calm, very and even like even when he lost the belt, eh, like the way he carried himself after it, he didn't, obviously it's tough to lose a belt, like anybody, but he has that demeanor that I think is a really good example of how to carry yourself as a fighter. And I think, and you need more fighters like that to set the standard and set the example for young, hungry up and comers who need that fighter kind of look up to be like, that's the guy or that's the girl, and I've always really liked watching him fight. I mean, I really liked everything he's kind of done, and I like the fact that he is a commentator. I do enjoy like listening to him, and but I mean, it was pretty funny when they poked fun at him for the sweater that he was wearing at one of those events.
Yeah,
I got a kick out of that. That was pretty funny, Mister Rogers.
John John Anik was having a blast with them, and John Anik always
Yeah,
has to attack him, and they just have that buddy relationship, which is
exactly.
awesome. But man, Dominic Cruz, like you said, he's a very intelligent fighter, and with such a weird style, he breaks things down to where everyone can understand. Like again, he has such a his style was different. Like he was the first one that created his style of fighting. Then you see TJ Dillashaw creating kind of a variant of it, or Dwayne Ludwig, and then TJ, and then
Yeah.
eventually you see Corey Sandhagen, creating his own variant. So like he's a pioneer in the sport, especially the UFC bantamweight division. How powerful he is, how smart he is. I mean, he's wrestling some of the guys here at UFC Mexico, and he's going hands down with a lot of the guys and going like, "Hey, lazy boy, hey, shorty, I'd like to roll with you guys, and I want to." This is why he's not just picking some random guys to go with. So he's a very very smart person, man. And I told him, I was like, honestly, I hope to commentate more in my career, and if I do, I want to be like you, but obviously, my own version. I just want to speak very intelligently and be able to break down these fighters because what he does takes a lot of time. But he did call the fight, and he called it literally exactly how he thought it was going to go and how it went.
I know you talked about like what he said about like he eventually he's gonna be able to touch him and he's just not gonna be able to, but did and Max just won't be able to take it from like a young hungry guy, but did he say anything about like why he thought it was gonna be the third round?
I think it's just because of the fighting style. He was saying, he goes, I know my fighters, I know Max, and I
Yeah.
know inevitably he wants a firefight. That's his style. I mean, in general, you look at the Brian Ortega fight, you look at his fights with Volkanovski, you look at, honestly, his Justin Gaethje fight, any of his fights, he's a game opponent. Ricardo Lamas back in the day, yeah, screw it. Let's do it right here. He wants to fight. But the fact is, when you got a very smart technical fighter that's patient, that has that one shot knockout power like Ilia Topuria, like that's a scary thing. It's kind of like fighting Alex Pereira or Francis Ngannou. Like they can get beat up the entire fight and land that one shot, and oh my gosh, the game changer. So Ilia Topuria, he knew that he was going to be able to roll the punches. He was going to put that pressure like he did on Volkanovski and his other fighters that he beat leading up to that title defense. And eventually, he was going to catch him. And he knew when he caught him, he was going to finish him because again, he's a young, hungry, but also very smart technical fighter. And I think that was his biggest strength in that bout is that he's not just a powerful striker. He knows when to, go all out and land his punches, and when he does, win and if to take advantage at the right time.
Well, and I saw this I think this post by the UFC, or maybe it was ESPN MMA, and they had a kind of a discussion between it was Alex Pereira and um and excuse me, I just lost him. Ilya Taporia. And I mean, they talked about who's the fighter of the year. And when you look at both guys, you have Alex Pereira, who's had three fights in 1 year, or three title defenses in 1 year, the way he's done it, who he's fought. But then you have Ilya Taporia, who, yeah, he's had two title defenses, but he look at the guys that he's fought and look like the accomplishments that he's had versus maybe Alex Pereira, who, okay, he beat the same guy, or he beat Hill, um, Yuri Prohaska the second time, and then um, I forget his name, but and he's the level competition, right? So if you look at both guys, who would you think deserves more the fighter of the year?
That's the hard part because you never want to take away the credentials
Yeah.
of any fighter. You know, you had a guy who's again, like you said, three title defenses versus two, but then you look at the quality of fighters compared to the amount of fights. Dude, what Ilya Temporia has done compared to everyone else in the weight class, like before Volkanovski, Max Holloway was the man. He ran through the entire division to finally get that title shot and
Mhm.
was phenomenal. And he dominated again, like how Volkanovski beat Max Holloway, Max Holloway beat Jose Aldo, the other reigning king, and it just kind of keeps on that crown keeps on being passed over. Now Ilya Taporo is able to do it, but now also take out the other kings. You know, that's how good. Like, look at it this way: no one's, at least for me, I'm personally not that excited to see Volkanovski get a rematch. I think he will do better, but I honestly see the same result. Maybe a little bit later in the fight, maybe a little bit earlier, but I see the same result happening to Volkanovski and Ilya Topuria still being the reigning
Mhm.
champion. When you saw Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prohaska, you know, the second time you're like, oh, this might be a closer fight. Jury's a good fighter. It is what it is the first bout, and it was a close one. But then you saw how much better Alex Pereira was able to, you know, manipulate the system and do what he needed
Yeah.
to do to get the win. It's like that's how good Alex Pereira is. Also, I do want to state they're both here at the UFCPI in Mexico. For whatever reason, yeah, thumbs up. For whatever reason, both uh Chama and Yuri Prohaska are training at UFCPI in Mexico. And I can tell you this, I don't know if you saw the video of Lazy Boy sparring with Alex Pereira,
I saw
but
that,
what
yeah. What a freaking stud.
and
I
I
mean,
can
I
talk
know,
about that a
like,
little bit.
I was gonna say
I can
Pierre's
definitely
not
talk about it a
throwing
little bit,
bombs, but yeah.
but that was super random. But um Alex is fucking huge. Like, I'm a person that obviously I'm small. So like I know like, oh, this guy's big. Oh, this guy's bigger. No. Alex is fucking huge. Like he is giant. And I've met him a couple times. But it's the first time I seen him in like his MMA gear, hitting pads, and you just like I can see why he's winning. I can see why people say you should go up to heavyweight because I don't see him having a problem there, at least with the striking. But he is huge. And I saw Yuri Prohaska. There is no comparison. Yuri's so much smaller. It looks
Yeah.
height wise, it looks like Max Holloway versus Ilya Temporia, which also again shows how good Ilya Temporia is. You know, power for the short people. But the fact is, like I'm gonna give a little bit more credit to Ilya just because he's so small, height wise, length wise, and again, primarily his biggest strength is boxing at a weight class against Max Holloway, who's super long, who should easily be at lightweight, and I believe is best at lightweight. Hopefully, you know, coming up to his next bouts. But I'm gonna give a little more credit to Ilya. Um, and if he was able to do another fight, dude, I know he's healthy. I know he's well, and I know he would, but you know, UFC is gonna save him appropriately. But Shama, that dude is I, I think he's like a cheat code. So he's the if he doesn't win, I'm just surprised. You know, like so I'm gonna give it to Ilya Temporia, but Chama is huge. Like I can't overstate that he is gigantic compared to everyone.
Yeah, Poton, man, like, and the thing is too, he's, you look at his credentials, and there's no secret how good he has been in his career, what he's done before the UFC, before MMA. He's done so much, but you look at maybe, okay, when he fought Adesanya the first time, there was the question of how good is he going to be against Adesanya in MMA. Because prior to that, he had a couple fights that maybe, maybe one or two had a little bit of trouble. So he knocks out Adesanya, right? And then they have the rematch, and then Adesanya gets revenge. Then he goes up to light heavyweight, and you got to think, okay, where's his mindset going to be at? Is he going to be much better? Maybe not cutting as much weight. He looked pretty good, right? And then once he captured the belt, and then the way he was starting to defend his title, he just got better and better. And I think you saw even
Hmm.
that evolution at 36 years old. You saw the evolution of him just getting better and better. But I like to see, I think there's some contenders out there that could give him problems now. His last fight, yeah, I mean, he fought another kickboxer, but I don't think that I don't think like I just think that you got to see the level of competition that he's gonna start to get soon. But I will say he's gotten freaking just much better, much better, much better, and it's crazy how damn good he is. And you said this again. This is like to watch him knock people out with not just okay, you're not just some power punch, or you're not just someone who can put on the volume and tire somebody out like Sean Strickland, but you're a guy that just can touch you, and the guy just goes to sleep. Like it's like is it like can you witness like someone having that power to just put someone to sleep like that? It's just insane.
I'm telling you, if you see him in person and you see him hitting
Run,
pads, you're like,
run as fast as you
dude,
can.
fucking makes sense. Cause he like you hear him hit pads, and you know how like people over exaggerate, they'll put up the volume on the pad of work and hit the pads, and you hear the he hits it and you feel the thumps. You feel like the
Yeah,
ground vibrate. It's like an anime scene where like the rocks slowly start coming up because he walks in the room.
yeah,
He's just dude, he is a strong guy, and it's actually really funny because I don't know exactly how it happened, but Lazy Boy's super popular here in Mexico, and he's been helping myself, Miguel, and a bunch of the guys here in Mexico City train at the UFC PI. So we've been allowed to go into the PI because of Lazy Boy. Now, Lazy Boy can't spar. He broke his orbital bone in the fight with Ode Osborne in the first round. So he's out at least sparring wise until maybe late November, give or take. We're still waiting on the MRIs and the paperwork and all that stuff. And so
hmm
I can't really do much with him sparring wise. We just kind of play touch and have fun. And so we just finished doing pads, and we saw Alex Piero walk on in with his big coach, and they're doing pad work. And now Lazy has his videographer there. And Lazy is a fucking promotional king. He loves to promote anything video wise. Like he's gonna do it the day before. He went to a concert. There was a Mexican rapper who has like 10 million followers, and they both collab. And like again, Lazy takes every opportunity to collab with all
yeah,
the popular people, and he's super popular. And like Chavez Senior came in, Julio Cesar Chavez Senior came in again just for Lazy Boy. Like again, he's anyway, super popular. So I go
yeah,
downstairs, I'm done for the day, I go to shower, and I come up and I see Lazy Boy and Chama, Alex Piera, sparring. And I'm like, what the fuck is he like? And I'm Lazy Boy's coach, and I know he has a broken orbital bone. So if he can't help me for my fight, why the hell is he in there with Chama? Sparring with him. And I'm like,
yeah,
what? And everyone's going, the videographer's having a blast. Everyone's like, yeah, I say, do that, do that. And Chama's, doing his little roll and having fun. And Chama gets hit every once in a great while. Like he lets one or two in. But Lazy is starting to get more and more like competitive because he's taking clean hits. And if you know any Mexican that fights, dude, you take a clean hit. It's not hard. It's just, oh, you hit me clean. Oh, I want to get one back. The only problem is Chama's also a light heavyweight. He weighs like 240 naturally. He hits hard naturally. So you
yeah,
probably think you're getting hit hard, or now it's a sparring match. Lazy doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I don't care. And he just starts sparring. And so he's throwing all these punches. Alex Pereira is just hitting them clean. After the round, Lazy Boy is bleeding a little bit from his like the inside of his cheeks and his mouth. And I go, dude, where's your mouthpiece? He goes, and he spits the mouthpiece and he gives it to one of the coaches. And I'm like, dude, that's he's like, oh yeah, I didn't bring mine. So I just grabbed one that was randomly around here, put the mouthpiece in, and I went to go spar with it. I was like, dude, that is the dumbest slash craziest slash most awesome thing you've ever done. And he just puts that mouthpiece back with a little bit of blood on it and then just left. And then I think he also got in trouble by the UFC PI. Like, dude, you're not supposed to be sparring. We can't let you back in here until you fully recover. So I don't even think we're back allowed in the UFC PI because Lazy Boy just wants to spar and train. But again, it's a fighter's mentality. I would do the same thing, but it's like, what are you doing? But he's a crazy, crazy person that wanted to spar with Alex. And I asked him, I was like, how was he? He goes, dude, he's so nice to me that I could feel it at any time. If he wanted to hit me with 20%, he could have knocked me out. He could easily broken my other orbital bone without trying. And this was just boxing. Like he goes, I felt like I felt like a kid play fighting with his father. Like when you're like, 5 years old trying to hit your dad in the face and you just can't. Like that's how it
Yeah.
was.
That's insane. Yeah, Lazy Boy, that you know what though? It's I think like from what you've told me and what I see on his Instagram, he just I think he has a natural ability to know how to promote himself and to know what opportunity and when to do it. And some people just don't have that. So
Mhm,
for him, for what he does and the character that he has and the fighter that he is, I think he has a bright future ahead of him. Whether he goes far in his career or not, I mean, the opportunities that he can give himself outside the
mhm.
cage is also there as well.
Dude, Lazy Boy, and this is something that like, sometimes we all get envious of each other for whatever things we have, and I'm like, fucking lazy man, you got everything I wanted, like, and he's the reason why I'm cutting back down the flyweight and inspired to do a lot of things. And I'm like, dude, your personality, you just have fun. Like, it's kind of like you ever look at somebody, you're like, man, I know I can do what he does, and I wish I could do it, but then you see them doing, you're like, I'm not him. Like Lazy Boy is just somebody else. Like his he's so enthusiastic when he gets on camera. Like I always bring up the story of Kobe Covington when he used to have that moniker of, like what's up, nerds and virgins, when he was trying to fight Kamaru Usman, where he had the interim belt. Me and Kobe were talking and talking super politely. Like Kobe's one of the nicest guys you'll ever speak
Oh
to.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And you're just like, this throws me off because I see the social media and I see everything. But all right, cool. We're having a super fun, peaceful conversation. And there was media day at American Top Team when I was still part of the squad. And a camera walks up. He goes, "Hold on, Shorty. Come on, Usman. I want you next. You bore everybody." And I'm just like, what the fuck? Because he was doing, I think, AEW and a different, like, wrestling persona. So he built that into his moniker as his real life embodiment inside the cage. And when I see Lazy Boy is just himself the entire time. But then the camera turns on and he goes just like a step further, and you're like, how do you have that much energy? It's like a kid on sugar. Like, dude, it is fucking phenomenal. And the way he promotes doesn't matter if he knows the person, the company, whatever the case may be. Like, he does so many shout outs for people, for free and just helps a lot. Like, he really is like a down to earth person, and he's
Hmm.
honestly very inspirational. And I don't say that about many people. Like, he's just one of those people that he tells you something, you're like, oh my god, like this is awesome. So it's he's a good guy.
Yeah, and it's crazy how some people also just have the natural ability to be in front of the camera and don't get camera shy or don't like some people like you said with him, he just has all that bundle of energy. Some people just have that natural bubbly character about them. Like for me, I the thing is, so I'm I'm used to being in front of cameras. I've done dozens of interviews, and like but there's once in a while, and I don't know why. I can so before I do interviews, so I'm trying to think what interview it was. I think it was with Shamit Khan Megomedov, and he was fighting or kind of defending. I'm still kind of confused about the LFA thing, but he was kind of jeez, fucking hair in my face. He was fighting, I think for the LFA welterweight, or interim anyway. I think he was defending, whatever. And I was kind of going over my questions because the guy's Russian, the guy's from Dagestan. So for me, I'm kind of nervous because it was kind of like almost like a bucket list for me because I never interviewed a Dagestan fighter. I know he's training in New Jersey, but he, I'm going over all these questions and I can talk through the questions normally. The camera comes on and I'm also like I'm kind of talking to him, and everything went fine, but I could just feel the stress. I was feeling the stress because I know I'm being filmed, and for me, that's probably the biggest thing is when the camera comes on and I actually have to be confronted with the person and ask the question. Sometimes I don't know what it is. It makes me slip or it makes me like nervous, and I asked the question the worst way that I was trying to ask it, and I had it all prepared, and I can talk myself about how I'm gonna ask it, and da 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 da. And the camera comes on, and I screw it up, man. And I give fighters credit, and I get that you don't have it, you don't technically have a script, but you do. I think a lot of fighters do have an idea of what they want to say because whether it's to promote the fight or promote themselves or vice versa, I give a lot of fighters credit, especially when they have to do a dozen interviews and you want to look good in front of the camera, but then you have fighters like the Diaz brothers, and they just don't give a fuck. They're just, and
Mhm.
you can tell like whether it's like anxiety or it's they just don't like talking from the camera or they just don't give a shit. It's you then you can see people who are like I think you can see fighters, and I've had discussions with people about this. You have fighters who I think are perceived to be douchebags in front of the camera, but really you don't know what's really going on. You don't know if they just have like not performance anxiety, but like anxiety in front of the camera. Like some people just don't aren't feeling comfortable talking in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Like I'm a fighter, I'm not a talker, you know?
It's crazy because there's so many different personalities when people speak, like, Lazy Boy, he's so careless that, like, he sometimes after will be he'll look at his team, and he had that in his first press conference, he had that with, the one girl who does all the UFC interviews now, like, he was
Oh,
just like
Nina, yeah,
yeah, he literally looks at his people on the side, he's like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, huh?" But he's still on camera, he's like, "Fuck it, alright, let's have some fun," and it's hilarious
yeah,
because he's just being himself. He's just now on
yeah.
camera's like, "Oh, I get to be free." Then you have like I remember when it was me, Dean, Jillian Robertson, David Evans. Jillian suffers from anxiety, or at least back in the day, really suffers from anxiety to where anytime she did an interview, she would be like, like had that awkward giggle at the end. And then started doing like more and more podcasts and just got better with it. And slowly that awkward giggle went away. And you have the Diaz brothers, who you can tell I think personally it's the mixture of both. Yeah, they have the anxiety of like they're introverts, they want to keep to themselves, but then also that they don't care. They don't want to do this. They just want to fight. They feel that this doesn't need to promote the fight. Again, you look at Nate versus Connor, like Nate doesn't speak like that. He's like, man, I just want to fucking fight. Like, I don't care. I'm gonna fuck you up. And inevitably the first bout he did, and I still think he won the second one too. But the fact is, like, they just don't care. Then you have other people who
Yeah.
create, these monikers or fake personas, the Triple C, it's the Henry Cejudo and Kobe Covington and a bunch of other guys. It's like they tried to become their own version of Conor McGregor, but in their own way. And it's like Conor just knew how to speak. He goes,
Mhm.
"I'm not this guy," but inevitably, I think he became that guy. But like,
Oh, yeah.
he just he was just like, "I know I have to do this to get that." You look at Chael Sonnen, one of the very original, like, smack talkers. Like,
Mhm.
he would copy Muhammad Ali's type of rhythmic speaking, and then you look at Muhammad Ali, he knew how to promote back in the day before social media, before all this stuff. He just knew how to get people's attention and how to keep it no matter what, you were gonna remember his name.
Yeah, and yeah, and like I think with a lot of fighters too, like you brought up Jillian Robertson. I've interviewed her a few times, and she doesn't do the whole laugh thing, but like you can tell how much confidence she has, and she just has a good time. She's just got the
Mhm.
energy. She brings the energy, whether she's cutting a ton of weight or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, she just yeah, and she just brings that energy, and she's very open and talks about it. Doesn't take anything personal, which I wouldn't ask you stupid questions anyway. But like she's just good, and and you can tell that. But I've had another fighter, and I'm actually working on our local BTC card right now. I'm trying to work with a lot of the Canadians on that card, and I had this one guy, and the way he was so short with every question, and I don't usually take it personal because I'm like, this is just I just do it because I enjoy this. And if fighters could be a dick about it, you didn't have to take the interview, man. But
Yeah.
again, I don't know what the situation is. I'm just asking the questions, and it's harder for me because I can't have anything to build off from. So that's my standpoint. But again, I don't know the story, right? And then after the interview, the guy messaged me, he says, bro, dot 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 dot. And I'm like waiting for him, like, is he disappointed? Like you left me on like red, man, or like I'm leaving you on red, and I don't know what to say. And then a minute later, he sends me this whole paragraph. He says, "Man, I'm sorry if I came off like I was a dick. Da 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 da. Like I'm a little nervous in front of the camera. So it's only been my fourth or fifth interview. But I appreciate, man, you for doing this for me. If yeah, I get another fight lined up, I'll do another interview for you. And I'm sure I'll get better and better. I get a little nervous. I don't talk much when I get nervous. I'm like, bro, I get nervous all the time. No, no problem. Whereas someone might take that as that guy was being a fucking dick and just didn't want to give you the time of day. And
Mhm.
so for me being an interviewer and working for MMA Unhinged, I've had to chat with the guys like once in a while. Like I don't bring to them and be like, "Wow, this fighter I was talking about was being a freaking dick," because you just don't know what goes on. And sometimes people are cutting weight too, and it's not that they're
Oh, yeah. Dude, we don't
exhausted;
wanna
they're just
do we
exhausted.
don't wanna do shit.
So yeah, like it's just keeping an open mind about how people are like behind the scenes and behind the camera.
It's complicated as when I got a little more experience with Titan FC, the very first time I really commentated as like a headline guy,
Yeah,
was in Brave, and you can tell I was new. Cyrus Fees was awesome. He works with BKFC, EFC, all these different promotions worldwide, and he really like held my hand and guided me because I would start with one answer or one word answers and then two, and then I'd slowly get more and more confident. The craziest thing was Brave for their very first event. They're like, all right, guys, we want you to do this like 5 or 10 minute opener. And we're like, okay, cool. We're like, what are we talking about? They're like, just talk about the card. And we're like, this was maybe 10 minutes before we did it. Like they didn't tell us. And so we're just
yeah,
like, and this is my first time really commentating. And it's live. So the camera turned down. I'm just like, shit, you know. And eventually, as I got more and more my career for Titan FC, I started not just to be the color guy, but also the play-by-play, the one who shouts out the sponsors, and the one that always has someone in his ear going like, "Hey, in 5 seconds, we're gonna go to this." So you have to speak while someone's in your ear, and it gets super complicated. It's like trying to argue
yeah.
with somebody. You can't really get your point when you hear them over you, and you're like, "God damn it, stop speaking over me!" But you have someone in your ear that's telling you what to do next, but then also trying to guide the person next to you. So the John Anik situation, dude, his job is extremely hard.
Oh
But
my god, yeah,
I was everything's on cue, and so I have to cue everyone, and I'm trying to. At the time, I had two different fighters next to me, and trying to bounce between two different fighters and also get them to speak, somewhat evenly. Gets complicated when maybe one person's an extrovert and one person's an introvert, or this guy's a boxer. I'm like, okay, let me try to manipulate the situation to see how he can really chime in with the handwork. I'm like, oh, so what do you think he needs to do in the next round? He's doing well. Fuck. Okay. It's just like, it gets complicated. So it really is a learning process. And the crazy thing is that boxer that I had commentated with me ended up years later having his own podcast and speaks extremely well now. I'm like, this could have been better earlier, but hey, good for you. So it's a process of sometimes you just need to get in front of the camera multiple times, mess up, and go, you know what, it really doesn't matter, let's just have fun, speak, and whatever happens happens. Hopefully no one cancels me.
yeah. And when you did the commentating for the Lux Fight League, did you have like the earpiece in your ear where you have to like listen to somebody the whole time or no?
Yeah, that one was a little harder because that was my first time really commentating for Lux. I've guest commentated before, but they give me kind of like a whole side headset that doesn't have the people in the truck speaking. So, the
Oh, okay.
play-by-play guy has the people in the truck in his ear, but for me, I had the headset this time with the people in the truck, and for some reason, the volume was just like 100. So we'd be talking like this, and then all you hear is super loud, in 5 seconds, we're gonna. You're like, what the? You're trying to speak without stuttering because you have someone now speaking in your ear, and you're still trying to go in the straight line, but now you're being like swerved everywhere. So it was complicated, but we made it work and everything went well. So I believe so, at least, hopefully. Um, and I know they have another event. I was filling in for a guy who couldn't make it, so I didn't get the job this one. But man, it was definitely a cool event. And I can tell you, the first time I went to a Lux event was in Guadalajara for Lazy Boy's last fight. A part of Lux is what they're technically called, and dude, the Mexican crowd was there from the first fight all the way until the last fight. There was no like, okay, we're gonna get there at the main card and watch the last 5 fights. Dude, they were all hype from the first fight
Hmm.
all the way to the last. To where
It
I thought there was gonna be fights to break out because another person won or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, man. And you know what though? That's what I like about going to regional circuit fights. And I'm not talking about Mexico, but like just like in Canada. I've gone and done like covered events, and then also just gone as a fan. And what I really appreciate is that you get people that are there the whole night, and it's awesome. Now, mind you, because it's a little bit smaller venue, you can kind of see what's going on, so you know if there's like that one kind of obnoxious drunk fan that could start shit, and you can just watch. You can watch it come. It's like, yep, he's getting agitated. You're watching this person who's getting agitated because of him. You're watching the whole scene unfold. But I what I really appreciate is that you get most of the people are there the entire night. It's awesome. I think
Mhm,
it's really good, and you get to see the fights up close, and you kind of hear more what's going on. And when I did, I covered an event in London, Ontario. It was uh 2 years ago. It was about March. It was just before I started doing my cut, and I can remember going in, and I remember I was actually trying to get an interview with a couple of people that are trained over in Niagara Top Team, and I'm chatting with them, and I just said, hey, I know that I apologize. I don't know if you still have to corner another fighter, but if you had a couple of minutes of your time, that I deeply appreciate that. I can message you and you can let me know when you're ready. They're like, yeah, 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 no, that'd be cool. Yeah, no, of course, of course. And so as I'm walking back, I can hear like people shouting shouting into the cage. I can hear the coaches saying something, and I'm walking by, and out of nowhere, I just happened to turn towards the cage. And again, this was I wasn't really a fight I was paying attention to. It was like on the prelims, and I out of my I turn, I see a guy eating like a shin right on the net, or like right on the jaw, and I'm like shit, and you can hear the big smack, and I never heard it up close before, besides on TV. I was like, damn. So that's what it's like. All right. I'm like, I might have to
mhm,
sit back. And then they had the security tell me, like, hey, man, you got to, but because I had the pass and everything, I was able to go up. But I had the security, but like, yeah, you can't be staying up here. You got to go back to the table, like the media table. But yeah, it was a cool experience, and it was cool. Like that was probably the closest I've ever gotten up to a cage, and it was. But I really appreciate the whole event, and just the idea that people get to come for the whole event. And I get it with the UFC or bigger promotions. I understand you get some of the celebrities could come out for like the main card. I get
mhm.
it. You're a celebrity. What would he do? But yeah.
It was cool, like, when I went to Guadalajara, the craziest thing, this is where I was like, "Oh, this is what a Mexican event is, because 'cause I've never been to Mexico to watch fights,
Yeah.
and if you know anything about Mexicans, we love boxing. That's our primary still biggest to today is our biggest strength, and, when you have 2 Mexicans fighting, dude, it's a scrap. Doesn't matter if they're from different parts of Mexico, it's a scrap, it's a war, and Guadalajara, so there's 2 main soccer teams, or teams of football, and it's Chivas and Americas. Now I don't follow soccer, so I don't know, but one guy, and I don't know what Guadalajara, like, what their team is, but this kid who got the beautiful knockout is not from there, and I guess he knocked out the guy from Guadalajara, and everyone's like, "Damn, but you know what? We respect you, yeah, yeah." And then I don't know, he puts on the soccer jersey, and I guess it's one of the opposing teams. Let's just say it's
Oh
Chivas,
no.
and he puts it on, and everyone's like, "Yeah, yeah, boo!" And dude, the whole crowd, 'cause it's all Guadalajara, and you're just like, "Oh, this is bad." Like, it just got so into it, it was ridiculous, but it felt like a 4D movie of, like, the effects were hitting you, you feel the noise, your seat shakes. It was a really cool thing, but man, it's, talking about a Mexican, one thing that I do wanna give a shout out to, and talking about commentary and all that stuff, is Brandon Moreno fights this weekend against Amir
Yeah, in
Albazi,
Edmonton. Yeah.
and a lot of people are asking me because, 1, I beat Amir Albazi, and I also trained with Brandon Moreno, one, in 2016, 17, and then also leading up to his next fight with Amir Albazi, but we just trained in boxing. I personally believe that Brandon Moreno is the better fighter. Now, I've been having multiple discussions, people on Twitter messaging me, doing this, doing that. Albazi is a phenomenal fighter and fights very similarly to Pantoja. Now, obviously,
Mhm.
Pantoja's gotten the best of Brandon Moreno, but Brandon Moreno's really been working on his hands, keeping his distance, using his length, and I believe overall Moreno is the better fighter. And I believe I still believe that he could beat Pantoja, and I believe in both those fights he was winning, but obviously Pantoja does what he does best, is able to take the back, keep the fight on the ground, and get the win. Can Albazi do the same thing? I'll, I know from personal experience when Abazi has your back, dude, he doesn't let go. He might not tap you out, but he's gonna win the round because he's just gonna pressure, pressure, pressure. Does he have as good enough hands as Pantoja? I don't know, but I can definitely tell you from personal experience sparring with Albazi um, early last year or early this year, really, and training with Moreno. It's gonna be a very, very tough fight, and I'm excited to see how both of them do, just because they're both training partners. One of them I've beaten before. One of them also a former champion. So it's like for me, I'm entertained not just as a fan, but as a teammate and practice partner to both of them.
Well, man, you want to talk about bringing out pride. I'm excited. It's in Edmonton, which I don't live anywhere close by, unfortunately, because I would be going to the event or trying to cover the event. But I am looking forward to. You got Niagara top team coming out there represent. I know you got proper Mike Malott. He's fighting. I think he's opening up the main card, and then you got Jasmine Jasvidius. So you got some good local fighters coming up. Like I only live about 3 hours away from Niagara, so it's actually pretty cool. So I'm actually pretty excited. I'm hoping to watch it. Hoping to catch it. I'm off, but there's always things that always happen. There's always demands around the house, so I'm hoping to see it. I know there's a lot of great. I mean, it should be stacked with Canadians, and I think it's time that a Canadian card gets covered. It feels like we kind of get thrown into the closet and get forgotten about. But yeah, I'm excited. Like I
But
think that
I'm surprised Jillian Robinson's not on the card because she's from Niagara, I believe.
yeah, she is actually, and well, no, sorry, Jasmine's from St. Catharines, but anyway, pretty much in the same spot. But yeah, like I'm surprised that she didn't get put on there. I don't know why. I think she might have another fight booked, I
Mhm.
believe. And I think there was something about her opponent. I don't know what it was about her, but oh, I think she was upset because she wanted I saw this recently. So yeah, so Jillian got upset because she wanted to rock the red shorts to represent Canada, which I completely respect and as she should. But her opponent, whoever she's fighting, she's like, so she showed the text message between whoever it was with the UFC and said, "Yeah, sorry, or excuse me, sorry, your opponent picked the red shorts." She's like, "Okay, well, her funeral, I guess. I guess I'll wear the black or whatever it is." So,
Yeah.
she's still got the good to killer mentality, but I guess she's got to make her opponent pay for taking her red anyway, which is unfortunate because I think if you are a Canadian fighter and whoever they are, the opponent, whoever they are, if you are a Canadian, you should have the choice to pick the red fight kit, and your opponent gets whatever else. Like that's not how it
Mhm.
goes. Come on.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. It's like if you're here in Mexico, you get the choice of green, stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
and same thing with Brazil, green or yellow shorts. So it's part of the process. But like you said, Jillian, had the quote like, "Oh, then it's her funeral," and Jillian's a G. Like literally, she's gonna walk forward and push, and if she gets to fight down on the ground, that's her bread and butter. And then she trained with D Thomas. He's easily, and he messaged me a couple days ago, like just to check up, like Dean is one of not just the best coaches, but one of the best human beings ever. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's super
Yeah.
smart, super technical, but just a genuine human being that cares, man. And to have him in the corner, and even just as a fighter analysis, like it's he's a very very special human being, and I mean that in a very positive way.
Yeah, and I really like what he's done with the whole looking for a fight with Dana White, and
Hmm.
yeah, and those 3 guys, I really enjoyed what they're doing. The last episode I got to see them watch, I was waiting for it and it didn't upload. It wasn't uploaded for the longest time is when they came to Toronto to I know I'm bringing up my Canadian roots here, but I this is my time to shine.
Yeah,
They came
finally, you got my moment.
it's like, yes. Yeah, so they actually came to Toronto to, obviously for the looking for the fight. They came to Toronto to do they went to go watch one of the unified MMA cards. And I think that's where one of our guys, Pat Pitlick, there it was a really good episode, but man, Dana like was getting all choosy with these like, well, these 2 guys really impressive, but they're both over 30. I can't do this. And it's like, dude, you signed Alex Pereira, like, come on, man. But I get it. I get
Mhm.
it. It was kind of 2 different situations, right? And one of the guys I interviewed, he actually got a chance on the Contender Series, and his name's Pat Pitlick. And they said to him like, "Yeah, you impressive, you have impressive record, impressive showing, but you're unfortunately you're over that age, and it's a high risk to sign you just right at the gate. So we're gonna give you a shot in the Contender Series." Well, unfortunately, he didn't succeed in that. So I don't know what's going on with him if he's gonna go back to Unified. But yeah, it was a good episode, and it was kind of cool because they show up there, and every time the UFC films anything in Canada, it's always in the wintertime, and they give us this idea that it's always fucking snowing in Canada, and that's just not
Mhm,
the case. It's between usually, actually, our winters have gone better, so usually not November. We might get snow in November. It's usually probably the middle of December, possibly if you're lucky to, and then it's like January is where the dog shit comes out,
mhm.
where it's like January is just all snow, freaking cold as hell, cold as balls. February is like cold and snow, and then March is when it could be like really good, and then be okay for the rest until you hit summer, or you could be like, "Oh, spring, is that you? Oh, okay, never mind, you're snowing again."
Yeah.
And then it's like spring finally, like a week later, right? So yeah, I hate how they always kind of depict Canada as it's so snowing because it's not the case, but it does get freaking cold here, that's for sure.
Well, one, Dean doesn't like the cold, so I'm excited to see anything that happens in Canada where he's there.
Dude,
Um,
I'll send you that episode.
please. And then two is, that's the hard thing about the Contender Series is why bring in guys that are over 30 if you
Yeah,
already
that's
have them on this crutch. It's like this is the handicap. This is like we kind of want you to lose, but if you win, we still might not sign you. And I say that personal experience with my friend Rami Hamed, who fought in the card and on the Contender Series, and there was 5 fights. All the rest of the fights besides Rami's, all the fights were finishes. Rami had the most experienced guy. He was the guy from China who had like 40 something fights already. He was like 30 something and two or whatever. The guy was the number one guy on the show and was expected to win. And he was just tough. He's just a guy that, like the guy that Sean O'Malley beat with the green hair that just wouldn't die. Like it was
yeah.
that. This
Yeah,
guy was just tough as nails. And Rami won, but he didn't get a finish compared to the other four. The rest of the four guys got signed and he goes, Rami, you have a fun fighting style, but you're 33, and yeah, I'm just not interested in guys who are 33 when he just signed another guy that was like 36. So it becomes a process where that's the hardest part. Is like I get where for sure where Dana's coming from. Like you want to invest in young guys because like look at Ilya Temporia. Like worst comes to worst, he loses. You have years to build him back up. He already has a name. You can promote the hell out of him and
exactly.
this and that. But you have a guy who has a short timetable. Like even when he brought in Alex Pereira, like I highly doubt he expected him to have this much fame and I mean, no one did. I don't even think Alex thought he was going to do this well,
Oh
but
god,
he
no.
is, and he's taking full advantage of it. Which again, respectfully, he should. But when you have some of these fighters who are, I'm 32, so I'm like, oh shit, am I at that age now? It's like 32, 33, 34, even 35 and 36. Sadly, sometimes opportunities come at different times for people. And when it finally comes, are you automatically put on the handicap? If you can compete and perform, so that's the hard part of, maybe like with Rami, he had a tough opponent and maybe a tougher
Yeah.
one than the rest and did well, still won, but couldn't put on a show like the other guys. And because of his age, he's automatically labeled as maybe better luck next time. It's like, dude, there's like you said, I'm 33, 34. There's not much of a next time. Is there going to be a next time? So that's the hard part because this sport, if you're a heavier weight, you fight later on in life. Like you can fight at 38, 39,
Mhm.
40. Hell, look at Arlovsky at 45, still going, or Glover Teixeira, but smaller guys like myself, 32, 33, 36 at most. And we're like, dude, my head hurts, my body's dying on me. So it's a process. So it does suck. Um, but I believe everyone, no matter what age, should be given an equal chance. And I'm running for president. Let's do it. Create the union.
I like it. I like it. Um, Now we're running up on time here, so I did want to ask you what is going on with Brave. Why are they not releasing the information about your fight coming up? Come on, WTF, Brave? Come on.
Dude, I don't know. And that's the bad thing is, again, I'm not. a powerhouse of an MMA promotion. I can't state what works, what doesn't work. They've been doing so many different events, and I know they have a smaller team than most big MMA promotions that they're pretty jam packed. And I can say they are overwhelmed most of the time trying to run, events back to back to back. Given it's a personal problem, they should hire more people if that's the case and do more things. But the fact is, dude, I've known about my fight since the end actually the end of September, early October to where, dude, I've been in Mexico for a month already. Like I've been training for a month. I'm already super lean and getting in shape. I'm fighting at a weight that I'm comfortable at, going back down the flyweight. I had my opponent the contract signed. And me, I have gear that I have ready to be made, but I don't want to promote it until my fight is promoted because that's when like all the opportunities come to my page, more hype comes to my channel, stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait because they're all pre-order. But now you're telling me the fight might not even be announced until maybe a month before my fight. One, in my personal opinion, I think that's just a bad way to promote. Two, bad
Yeah,
way to promote me because I know I'm a more popular fighter at part of Brave. Doesn't matter how popular I am, promote me. It's gonna help you guys out. There's nothing wrong with that. And then three, I need to reach out to sponsors. I can't reach out to sponsors
yeah,
without releasing the info of something that you don't want me to tell. So I have to now last minute reach out to sponsors and be like, "Hey, I'm fighting December 13th. Who? Oh, I can't tell you. Oh, like everyone knows I'm fighting December 13th in Bahrain, but they don't know against who. They're guessing names, and sadly, it's not the name that everyone wants, but it is definitely a very fun name, and I'm definitely actually really, really excited for it. But it's not the name that everyone wants, so I can at least say it's not going to be Mohammed Mokaev.
okay, and that's the thing, I had a I had a feeling it wasn't probably gonna be him, and I had something prepared in case if the news came out and the next time I chat with you, it was gonna be him. I think I had a question like, what like if you okay, let's just say for the sake right now, you had the info and you said, okay, F you, Brave. I'm gonna tell my guy
Mhm,
here who I'm fighting, and it's Muhammad Mokaev. If that was the case and you're in that position, you've talked about, and I think I would actually ask you this in more of an interview for
mhm.
MMA Unhinged, but in a situation where you've been kind of a mentor to him, and then you're in a put in a position where, again, knowing you, Shorty, it's always about business. This is most is never personal. But because you had someone that you've been a mentor to, and you've had he's come to you advice before every
Mhm.
fight, but then you go in and have to fight a guy like that. It's like, does that do anything mentally? Is that a mental factor? You go in knowing, okay, now I've given all this advice. Now I actually have to fight him, and I can't be that guy to come to advice for unless it's like, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll tell you my game plan, and so yeah, good luck, man. Like, what mental
See,
factor does that give you?
I'm such a weird guy because I'm like John Jones mentally. Like when I was in wrestling in college, I would tell my favorite move was a fireman's, and I would tell people, dude, I'm gonna hit you with the fireman's. Doesn't matter if you beat me. There's nothing you can do. I'm still gonna hit you with that move. You are gonna go on Shorty Airlines, even if you do win the match. I'm gonna fucking toss you, and that's how All Americans. For me, whether I'm fighting Mohammed Mokaev, Lazy Boy, Moreno, Amir Abazi again, all these guys, Pantoja, like I know how well I do against these guys. And yes, for sure, there's some days that I have a bad day in the office, and man, they're better than me that day. It is what it is. And like Max Holloway said, Temporty is a better man today, and I'm gonna come on back and get hopefully get my belt back. For me, I think in my career in general, sadly, I've gotten the short end of the stick and obviously trying to work my way back up. That's why I'm moving back down to flyweight to hopefully get the opportunity to prove my chance that I am one of the best in the world, not just at bantamweight, but the original weight class at flyweight. If I had to fight Mokaev, Albazi, whatever flyweight, dude, I've trained with majority of the people at Brave and Bellator in the UFC. Like I know how well I do. Oh my gosh, it's so disappointing that for me mentally, it just again I got in the short end of the stick with my two fights with George Brooks, Alex Perez, short notices, and I just wasn't the best mentally at the time. Where they were the better men that at the time, or at least Alex Perez was, and it is what it is. For me, I know that I've matured a lot, And if I had those opportunities again, and this is why I'm making those call outs to especially Muhammad Mokaev, who I had to have the possible opportunity to fight against. It's like, dude,
Mhm.
I give you advice for a reason because I know what to do against you. I know your weaknesses. I tell you as a big brother respectfully of going, cool, just be weary that this person might do this. So it's not a smart fight for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't take it, but it's probably not the smartest thing you should do. But dude, you're young, you're healthy,
Yeah.
dude, go, you're hungry, do it. But I can tell you from personal experience, and I wouldn't say having conversations with him, but just knowing what's best for him, it's not me. It is not me, and it's not right for Brave to have him fight me because he's going to be signed and he's going to lose. If he were to fight me at flyweight, given if I'm able to make the weight respectfully and properly, he would lose that fight, and I would not. I can. The amount of worry in my head is not even about the fight. It's just more of making weight and being healthy. That's it. At the flyweight division, and I tell you from former champions, and I'm not going to state who because I don't want to put them in the spot. Former champions in the UFC, and more than one, and Mike could attest to this because they said this to me at UFC Mexico, that if you were in the UFC or still in the UFC, I wouldn't be champion or I would have never won the belt. And I'm like, fuck, where are the cameras? Dana, where are you? Because, oh, I'm telling you, but it is what it is. So for me, I think it'd be a very, very bad matchup if if Muhammad Mokaev were to fight me, and it's not a smart idea for him because I know his goal is not to be a Brave champion. His goal is to end up back in the UFC. My goal is to make as much money as possible, and if you're in front of me, then go fuck yourself. I just got to do what I got to do. So, again, my goal is to have a family one day. My goal is not for the belt. If that comes to be, fucking even better. But I've won too many belts in my life. I need money, and I want to kick somebody's ass to do so. And if it's Muhammad Mokaev to bring my career that much closer, to where I thought I'd be by now, then even better. But it's not a good matchup for Mokaev, and it's not a good thing for Brave because Brave is going to promote Mokaev as much as possible, especially now paying him 3 times as much as they did, or the UFC did, which again, I have no fucking clue. But it would be a waste of their money if they had him fight me.
Yeah, well, brother, you've said it all. Yeah, I'm hoping you can get the news soon because I want MMA and Hinge to be the second to release it the moment that the news does come out. And then I love to respectively actually give you an interview and then just chatting about it on the show here. And yeah, it'll be good. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about it and excited to hear about the opponent and be able to talk more about it. And but yeah, man, I know you got camp going on, and I know you got things going on, and it's nighttime for me. So, Shorty, it's always a pleasure chatting with you, and it's always fun just to chat and just to go on and be able to cover things. And I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're in camp, and I know you got, I mean, a month and a couple weeks go here. So we're
I got 6 weeks, 6 weeks
yeah,
left.
6 weeks. It's coming
Starting
up.
on
Yeah.
Friday because
Yeah,
I lose a
yeah.
day, but
So
6 weeks.
6 weeks, man. So let's fucking go, and hopefully Brave comes out with something soon. And yeah, man. So I appreciate the time, man, and we'll chat again soon, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Carlos Spicy Wiener. And dude, I appreciate you obviously always, your time letting me rant right now, which I'm just like, oh, triggered, fuck. But yeah, man, it's good, and I'm glad I have enough energy because I'm fucking tired. But man, I appreciate you. I can't wait till next time, and hopefully, like you said, Brave announces the news, and get to have a little bit of fun on here when it comes to just being able to fully release everything because I'm like Tom Holland when it comes to Spider-Man facts. Dude, you ask me a question, I'm like, fuck, can I say this? Oh God, I want to release everything, but I can't, so I wanna just be open and have fun. But until next time, I appreciate you, brother.